think we need some coffee today. So this is a simple trance template using stock plugins and free VSTs plugin. And as always, you will find a link to everything under the video below. Let's play a little preview of this track, and then after that, let's go through each and every track where I will explain why I did what I did and my mixing decisions and things like that. There will also be timestamps below, so you can skip certain parts if you will. So let's play some preview here. Oh, that coffee was hot. Yeah, that was a little preview. This is how the sound or the track sounds like using only free VSTs and included plugins in Ableton Live. I have recorded my synthesizer in one of the tracks, but I'm getting back to that later on. So let's just start with this. I'm using send effects in this track. So for those, I am using Valhalla Supermassive. So this is a free VST, which is really good. I'm using both Valhalla Supermassive for both delay and reverb. It has some presets here which behave like an echo and some presets that behave like a reverb. I really like the Valhalla plugins. I use the Shimmer plugin often on synthesizer. I think it sounds really great. So this is a really nice free VST. So we begin with the Sidechain Track at the top. This is just an instance of Simpler with a kick loaded up, nothing more than that really. So the second track is the real kick track. It's using a free sample from My Loops, and I use the Warm Tube plugin here just to give it some saturation and edge to the sound. And at the end there's a compressor using the acoustic kick preset just to try to tighten it up a little bit. So I can play it without and with the plugin on. The first loop sounds like this. It's also a free sample. As you can see here, I have decided to cut off a lot of the low end of this sample because I thought it was a little bit noisy. I added some heavy compression to it and also a sidechain compressor. In addition, I also fed this noise to the reverbs, and then I'm automating it in some of the transitions in this track. So you can, if we press A, you can listen to it here. You get this kind of white noise fade out, if you will, if you just take out the reverb a little bit. And if I turn off the EQ here, you can listen how it sounds. A kind of lot of things happening there in the low end. But if I turn on the EQ, you filter it out, of course. Loop number 2, and the ride loop is mostly the same as the one before, but it's no automation here, so I'm not going to go through those that much. The clap loop, however, is again heavily EQ'd by removing a lot of the low end. I'm also using some compression to tighten it up, and here I also have some automation on the reverb and delay sense to give it some movements in the transition. You can listen here. Just to give it some life. Like so. And if I take off the EQ on the reverb, you can, or on the clap, it sounds like this. And the rear EQ on. So that's how the clap sounds. Then I have some effects like snare roll, reverse crash, reverb kick, and white noise. These are also all free samples from some of the free sample packs I have found online. Then we get to the bass, which is colored blue. One is for bass in the low-end frequencies, and we have another one which is more in the low mids. The bass is being generated by the free VST called Surge XT. It looks like this. And I'm using presets that come with it. On the mix bus I use mostly just some compression, some EQ to shave off below 40 Hz, and some of the high end here in the bass. We don't really need that. And I'm also side chaining it. And just below the bass tracks I have this bass drone playing. And this bass drone is being generated by the free VST called TAL-NoiseMaker. And I'm using an EQ to remove some of the frequencies I find a little bit annoying in this drone sound. I can turn off the EQ so you can listen. And I can turn on the EQ again. So first you can see there I'm dipping around 500 Hz to remove some resonance in the sound, and also removing everything in the high end. I'm using a utility plugin to make it mono under 200 Hz. And then a sidechain compressor to give it some pump. The Pluck lead group consists of 3 tracks that is grouped together and processed together. First of all, I always like to include some hardware synths in my templates. If you have seen other templates from me, you know that. So I have a track from my Moog, which is recorded in audio here, and you can take a listen here. I do some live automation when I record the Moog as well. So it sounds like that. Then we have Pluck track 1 is being played by TAL-NoiseMaker. And here I have tried to recreate the Moog sound in this free VST. I did not get it quite right, but I think it's pretty close actually. So if we compare them, you can hear that it's, of course, there's a lot of more bite in the Moog then. But I thought I could try to recreate the Moog in this TAL-NoiseMaker, because the TAL-NoiseMaker is a 2 oscillator synthesizer and the Moog is the same. So if we listen to the Moog here, you can hear first the Moog. And we listen to the TAL-NoiseMaker. And to the Moog. And to the TAL-NoiseMaker. It's pretty close, but of course you can hear that there is a lot of more bite in the Moog, and that's of course probably because of the filters and everything there. Pluck number 2 is being played by the excellent plugin called Odin 2. Here I decided to create a patch from scratch, and it sounds like this. I think the patch I created had some strange artifacts and resonance, so I played a lot of around with the EQ to try to filter out worst of the resonance sound there. You can see I actually have quite a few peaks, or I'm taking down quite a few peaks here. And I often find that cutting EQ is also mostly useful than boosting EQ frequencies. So you can listen to it turned off. And if we turn it on again, it just sounds a little bit more compressed, I think, and sound a little bit better. And then the entire Pluck lead group, they have some heavy processing, and mostly it's because it didn't really sound the way I wanted it to sound. So we are starting off with some saturation in the high end, and then we use the OTT compressor. The EQ there is to take off some of the low end, but I wanted to keep a little bass as well. And then I'm cutting pretty aggressively around the 350 to 600 hertz to get rid of some of the mud sound and resonance sound. Then we have compression here, glue compressor, and then I use a sidechain compression in addition to that. But it's not that much gain reduction. Maybe 2-3 decibels. And there's for EQ3, there's is a trick I got from another YouTuber. So if you just drag this onto your bass track without changing any of the default settings on this plugin, it will give the sound some more bite to it. You need at least 2 or 3 of these EQs to notice a difference. I can play it for you here and just with it on, turn it off. Just give it a little bit of edge, you know. And then at last we have a utility plugin to filter out frequencies under a certain hertz to mono. The tracks on the bottom is for some add-on melodies. The first one is a patch that come included with Ableton Live. You can also see that I have a MIDI plugin here, or a MIDI effect called Add Some Random. This is a plugin that will randomize the velocity of the notes being played. So for example, if we see on the Moog MIDI here, which is not in use, I have to add some random here as well. And on the Plucks here, I also have add some random plugin just to give it some more human feel from the sound, because everything here is programmed, it's not played live, you know. So it's a great way of using the MIDI effects to try to give your track a little more human feel. The strings pad is being played by the Surge XT. The Melody 2 track is being played by TAL-NoiseMaker, which is also playing a patch I made from scratch. And the kind of melodies sounds like this. The Master Bus have quite a lot of plugins actually. I actually don't use that many plugins, I think, on my other tracks, but I also use other plugins that are paid. So it's a little bit of a challenge to change something that you're used to, but I think it's a fun experiment, and in the end you get a template from it. So it's a win-win for both you and for me to just try something different. But anyway, we're starting off with a utility tool, and I use this to widen the stereo image, and but not by much, just 123. And I'm also using it to filter every frequencies below 120 Hz and just set them to mono. The Enhance plugin here brightens the entire mix a little bit, and warm up lows and highs saturates the sound and give it just some warmth and some harmonics in those frequencies. The glue compressor here called Mastering Catch Peaks is just to take up the worst peaks on the tracks and reduce the dynamic range a little bit, and to try to tighten up the entire mix just by a small gain reduction of 1 to 2 dB. I can play now, you can see on the metering here. And that's basically it for the glue plugin. Then the multiband compressor here helps me get more near that what I think is the radio-ready sound, and I am mostly using the multiband compression here to squash the mids in this track, because I thought the mids in this track was very overwhelming. So if I play it with it on, I can turn it off and turn it on. Off, turn it on. You hear that it gets a little bit more squash and it gets a little bit more radio sounding, if you will. I think that at least. And at the end here, we have a limiter to raise the volume of the entire mix. And when I use the Ableton Live limiter, I never go below minus 3 dB of gain reduction, because it will introduce some noise in your mix, and you don't want that. So if I wasn't forced to use included plugins from Ableton Live here, I would replace this with the FabFilter L2, because you can get some more sound out of your mix without any noise. It's good enough. It's perfectly fine. So that's the end of the track, and now you probably expect me to ask you to like the video, subscribe, and all of that stuff. And although that's nice and I appreciate it, it actually helps a small YouTuber more if you watch my other videos. So there should pop up something on the screen now. So if you have time and check out my other templates, you are very welcome to do that. That actually helps more than clicking like or subscribing. I also have some affiliate links to products I use below, so you could check those out if you want. It will not cost you anything more, but it will give me some commission if you decide to buy something. That's all for today. Thank you for your time, and take care. Goodbye.